All right, CMEN Nation. It is another great day to enter CMEN Sports. I'm Eric Bierman, and as always, I'm here with Pat Klett and the CMEN, Bill Sanders. Good to be back with you, boys. How are we doing today?
Doing well. Thanks for asking, Eric.
Great.
Yeah. Well, you guys will be happy to know that Happy Eric is back. I was a little grumpy last week, but I had a great weekend. My Wolverines won. I've successfully already forgotten about my awful Bengals. So we're going to roll into the good times with another great show. All right. I do have to say though, I had a great but busy weekend. As you guys know, I went to the Notre Dame Miami game in South Bend to see my son cheer on the sideline. And I do have to say, it was so freaking cool. He got to lead the Red Hawk football team out by running with the Miami flag. So that was a pretty cool experience to kind of see him do that and run across the Notre Dame field. I also have to say, I have not been to Notre Dame in years. They've really improved that stadium and just the campus overall. Tailgating was great. A lot of new buildings. Have you guys been there before or been there recently?
No,
Never have.
get out of the house much.
Pat, it's your
awesome.
homeland.
Yeah, your son should have taken the flag.
Your ancestors.
Yeah, your son should have taken the flag to the 50-yard line and stuck it in the ground, and then double middle finger to the whole crowd. And a lot
Taking out the
cooler.
leprechaun.
He'd have been like,
Take out the leprechaun.
That's my
too.
boy.
Now, I will say South Bend is still an absolute hole. When you drive through it, you're like, are we really going to get to a nice college here pretty soon? And you do, but man, the town itself has a lot to be desired.
How far out of Chicago is it?
It's probably an hour and a half, I would imagine.
Okay. Decent.
Yeah.
Decent drive. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's not, definitely not. I wouldn't call it close, but no, it was a great day. It was hot. It was a very hot day, but tailgating was fun. The Red Hawks kept it close for the first half, and then Notre Dame kind of rolled, but Miami still got the cover, and that was one of my bets. So that it all worked out well.
And Bierman, we also nailed it pick on that one.
Which one? Well, the
20 to 29 spread. And Pat, sorry, your ancestors didn't come through for you, but
For fuck's sakes.
So it was we went up and back same day, got up real early, came back that night. So it was a long day. So I spent a lot of my time on Sunday on the couch watching football. And guys, I got to tell you, I heard an incredible stat and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. So top 3 coaches in NFL history in terms of wins are Don Shula with 328, George Halas with 318, and the hoodie man himself, Bill Belichick, with 302. Do you have any idea who number 4 all time is?
Don Johnson.
Pete Carroll. Kidding. Just kidding. Give us a sec. Can we take a second? Can we ask a question?
30 seconds.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Did you say Tom Landry?
Tom Landry's number 5.
Oh, good guess. Good guess, Pat. Andy Reid.
Andy freaking Reid is number 4 all-time.
That makes sense.
Wins. Very good guess, Bill.
Good job, Bill.
Hey, by the way, I'm going to give myself a nailed it point for that.
Sounds
He
good
has
to me.
261 wins, so he's still 40 plus away from Belichick. But I had no idea that he was
40,
that
so
accomplished.
that's only 4
That
years.
is very impressive. Yeah. So I wasn't expecting that. I know he's been around a while and he's a good coach, but man, that's pretty good. So it got me thinking, what other underrated or under the radar coaches are there right now in either the NFL or the college game? A couple come to mind for me, but just curious, who do you guys think is doesn't get the props they should?
Well, I think for me, I went with Matt LaFleur of the Packers, reluctantly taking a Packers coach, but I feel like they transitioned to him and they didn't have a couple down years. He just picked up right where they left off, and he doesn't have a ton of pieces around. I mean, I feel like there's not a lot of superstars in that building, but he continues to play solid football. Doesn't from the games I've watched, it doesn't seem like he's making any dumb mistakes. But yeah, so I would say LaFleur.
Yeah, I actually thought about LaFleur too, Pat. I would agree with that. He loses Rodgers, got a new quarterback in Jordan Love. They really don't miss a beat. Honestly, they probably improved last year. Had a great year. Lose him again this year. Malik Willis steps in. Who the hell is Malik Willis? And it continues the ship going in the right direction. He seems to have the respect of his team. Yes, that's a really good choice.
Yeah, these coaches are so young too. Bill and I were talking about this earlier while you were gone, which was nice to have some alone time with Bill. But we were talking about how some of these coaches are. I mean, half of them in the league are younger than us. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, for me, the first thing that came to mind, Eric, is like, what makes a coach underrated? I mean, in my mind, the first guy that popped into my head was Dan Campbell, but is he underrated? I'm not sure. I just love his style. Like, there's something about it that just feels to me like the whole city has got behind this guy, and it was before even they had their amazing run last year, right? And I just think that there's something about that when a coach can kind of just rally the fan base with just his style, and it comes, I think it permeates throughout the locker room. Obviously, they had a great year last year. They seem to be on their way to another great year this year. I don't know. Do you guys think that that's a fair one and underrated, or
I absolutely thought of Dan Campbell too, and I mean, underrated is certainly a subjective term, but in my mind, it's just somebody that you look at and you're like, wow, he's doing a really good job, and probably doesn't get quite the level of credit that he deserves. For me, again, you could argue maybe he's not underrated, and I hate this team, and really don't even like the guy, but he's kind of grown on me over years. It's Mike Tomlin with the Steelers. I mean, if you really look at that guy, I mean, he has coached since 2007. He's led the Steelers to 11 playoff appearances, 2 Super Bowls, 1 title.
Never gone below 500.
That's just really impressive.
They've never gone
below 500. You're right.
Yeah. He was with the Vikings organization before that, so it makes sense that you would pick him. But
well, one of those Super Bowls is under protest still. I'm just saying.
And then I will just say quickly, if we look at the college game, and I thought a little bit about this, there's a lot I think that you could make the case for, but I would argue until I'm blue in the face, Kyle Whittingham is number 1 on the list with Utah.
That's a great call.
If you really look at what he's done, first of all, he's coached at Utah since 2005, replacing my favorite coach, Urban Meyer. He's gone 166-79. He navigated them into the Pac-10, where a lot of people thought, they were going to struggle to compete. But not only have they competed, they've thrived, and really for years kind of were at the top of the heap there, along with some other teams. But he went 13-0 in 2008. That was still in the Mountain West. He's led them to 7 double-digit win seasons, including 4 all in the Pac-10. And to me, this was so impressive as I was looking at this. So he is 11-6 in bowl games, which is really good. But he's lost the last 5 in a row. He was 11-1 in bowl games at one point. But even 11-6 in bowl games is really, really good. So I don't know. I love that guy, and I think Utah's got a winner there.
Yeah, well,
it's interesting, I think, hearing all 3 of ours. Yeah. Go ahead, Pat.
Well, Cam Rising, is he going to get another year of eligibility next year so he can sit on the bench injured again?
Coming back for his 10th year, maybe?
And then they got Zach Wilson's little brother running the show now. It's kind of a fun team to watch. Interesting how it'll all play out.
I actually put some money at the beginning of the year on a Big 12 team to win the national title at 25-1. And I think Utah, it can be any Big 12 team, but I do think Utah is probably my best choice. And so they're off to a good start. They had a really nice victory against Oklahoma State this past weekend.
That's a terrible bet. You're basically throwing your money away, Eric.
Hopefully it was a small wager.
You can make bets through me if you want. I'll take your money.
Well, it's gone up to 100 to 1 now, Pat. 100 to 1.
Yeah.
I just have
right.
to, Bierman, I got to throw this in there before you move on. I just think it's interesting that, and I don't, maybe not Matt LaFleur, but the other guys you mentioned are all very similar in terms of their style. So you have, I mentioned Dan Campbell, Kyle Whittingham, Mike Tomlin. You know, these guys are all like tough. And I just think too that, you know, not necessarily coming from like a really long coaching tree or having that history, but anyway, I just think it's kind of interesting. Again,
Yeah.
Matt LaFleur might be that as well. I just don't know him as well in terms of his persona. But
I mean, I just look at Dan Campbell and I get scared when he makes a face, man.
I mean,
that guy is intense.
As a player, you want to run through the wall for those guys, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting that we kind of put all those guys in it. My 1B was Mike McDonald, and Pat mentioned it. We were talking about young coaches, and I know it's too early to say, but he's completely changed the culture in 3 games in Seattle. Not saying they're going to have some amazing year, but it just seems like, you know, can this guy be in Seattle for 10 to 15 years? I can totally see it.
Why does it surprise you? He came from Michigan.
Yeah,
that
came from Michigan, Baltimore, right? Same.
Well, good, guys. That was enjoyed talking about some of those coaches. All right. Well, we do, as always, have a jam-packed episode. We're going to, in just a moment, talk about some headlines from the weekend and some hot takes. We'll get into our Stone Cold locks. We'll do our top 5. We'll do our Nailed It segment, and I'm sure we'll have lots of additional shenanigans along the way. So let's start with headlines from the weekend. The Cornhusker Express takes a quick derail while they lose a thriller to the Illini on Friday night. That was a fun game to watch. USC somehow allows a one-dimensional Michigan walk away with a win at the Big House. James Madison absolutely thrashes North Carolina on their home turf. Is it time for Mac Brown to officially call it quits? Miami, Tennessee, and Mississippi continue to look very impressive and could play party crasher role in the playoffs. Colorado wins in spectacular fashion against Baylor in a finish for the ages. The craziest NFL Survivor season of all time continues with the Buccaneers, Browns, Raiders, 49ers, and Bengals all losing and crushing even more people's hopes. I know in our pool, we started with 560-ish entries. We are down to 20. The Vikes continue to roll. The Saints got sidetracked. The Lions and Ravens got back on track. The Bills look really good. The Cowboys look really bad. And the Bengals look really, really ugly. All right, boys, a lot going on this past weekend. Would love to hear your guys' reactions, any hot takes, just any thoughts from the action on Saturday and Sunday. Pat, lead us off, my friend.
Oh, I think that you mentioned this group of 3 college teams, Miami, Tennessee, Ole Miss. I feel like those 3 teams look great. They're kind of my teams I might lock into here and see if we can ride that wave. And I feel like for college playoffs, those might be some upset teams to look at, you know, instead of someone that could knock off Georgia. Did watch a little bit of pro game. It was fun to be in Michigan and listen to the sports talk radio in a different city. It's always interesting to hear their takes, and they're so dismissive of the Vikings the whole time. It's like, well, Vikes, whatever. They'll come back to earth. They're not any good. So that was interesting to listen to the sports talk of Detroit. But otherwise, yeah, just a good weekend. Oh, and I thought Aaron Rodgers looked really good on Thursday night. I mean, he was zipping that ball, which could be fun to see a Rodgers resurgence here this season. How about you, Bill?
Yeah, for me, it was Eric. You mentioned it, but just being involved in so many pools, you know, the 90+% of survivor entries down after just 3 weeks. I mean, the biggest favorite on the board in each of the first 3 weeks of the NFL season has lost outright. I mean, that is just nuts. And I was going back and looking at some data from last year. 50% of traffic on runmypools.com were down 50% from last season. and then that season was 50% of the year before. So the last 2 years in a row, we've had this kind of carnage earlier in the season, and it made me wonder, like, what's happening? Is it the shorter preseason? Is it that there's some trend here? But maybe for all the people out there that are actually putting action on these games, you really need to ride those underdogs early in the season, because I mean, this is just nuts. Like Eric mentioned, 555, 560 entries down to 20. In one big
3
pool.
weeks.
In 3 weeks. In 3 weeks. I mean, last year
Never seen anything like it.
We had more than 20 people alive in week 15 last year.
And Mega Survivor ended in 3 weeks.
40 people to 1.
Yeah.
I mean, and just nuts, because Pat, you mentioned Aaron Rodgers, and the guy that won that pool took Aaron Rodgers and the Jets on Thursday Night Football, breezes to a victory, and then sits back and watches the last 6 people all lose.
Off. That's great.
I mean, talking about like what a nirvana for a football survivor pool entry. Yeah. It's just utopia.
This is my first year really doing Survivor. It's like, I don't think I'm going to do this again. My work one, they had us my work one, my boss texted me and he's like, "You want to reload on this? We're going to do a reload. Everyone's in." And everyone was out again. I picked the 49ers, and I think, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun though. It's fun because it keeps you on the edge of the seat. There's no gimmies every week. Any team can win. So that does make it cool. Yeah, for me, so a couple, the ending of that Colorado Baylor game. Is there anything cooler or more fun to watch than a Hail Mary connect at the end of a game? As long as it's not against your team. I don't like the Buffaloes, but man, that was really fun and exciting to see a half-field toss. Guy dives for it, catches it barely before it hits the turf, ties it up. They win in overtime. Did give me some flashbacks. I did twitch a little bit and some shades of 94 Westbrook and Stewart, but that was fun to watch. And then I'll take it, but USC should be ashamed of themselves for losing that game on Saturday. I don't know if you guys watched it. I was not able to watch it. I watched the highlights at the end. Well, I don't know if you can call them highlights, but we were listening to it on the way back from South Bend, and I can't believe Michigan won the game. 31 total passing yards and no first downs in the second half until about 2 minutes left in the game. Kalel Mullings, freaking credible. He simply willed them to the win. That final 60-plus yard run that set them up was just crazy that nobody could tackle him. He just kept running, turning the legs. I don't know how they cannot stop the run when they know that they are running.
Yeah, I did watch that game. I joined in at the half, and I was like 14-3. I was shocked at the halftime score. But then USC was dominating the second half, and then that pick six was just a momentum killer. They were doing so good, and then that pick six was so huge for Michigan. Otherwise, I don't think it's a game. I think USC just keeps rolling. That pick six was so huge.
Yeah, Bierman, for me, the other one too, and this is not Bengals necessarily related, but Jaden Daniels, that kid looks so special.
That pass, long bomb was so sweet. That was a rope.
I mean, I didn't necessarily, I knew he was good at LSU, and obviously he won the Heisman Trophy, but I just didn't know coming into the Commanders, like how that would look, and especially in his rookie season. Last night, on Monday night, guys, 21 of 23, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, 141 plus passer rating, ran for 39 and a touch. He also just made every big play in every big moment of the game. That's what I thought was so impressive. 3rd and 2, pick it up with his feet. 3rd and 7, perfect pass right over the middle to Zach Ertz. It was just, and Eric, I know, sucks to be the fan watching this of your team, but he just looks like he already has the team behind him. He's calling Cliff Kingsbury, get me the play. I mean, he's a leader out there on the field. The guy's in his 3rd NFL game.
Yeah.
And he just threw unbelievable, you guys.
No,
So
I was over it in the third quarter because it was evident to me that the Bengals were going to lose, and they should have lost. They could not stop. The Commanders scored every single possession, a touchdown on every one except one. The other, that was a field goal. This stat, my buddy texted me. I'm sure it was on the TV. I was at the game, so I didn't hear it. But first NFL game in 84 years with no turnover and no punt.
Yeah,
That's crazy. The
Good
last
call.
one,
Good job.
the last one I'll say, and it rolls nicely into our Stone Cold Locks here. How about that Enter Sandman Sports entry coming in first place for the weekend high roller pool? We are in first place for the season. All proceeds are going to go to a charity of the winner's choice, but very cool. Keep the great picks going, Sandman. I love seeing us up there.
I know Pat was giving me shit for bragging about the picks, but it's like this might be the first time I had won a high week in maybe 4 or 5 seasons. So
Yeah.
I mean, I was fist pumping all over the house. I mean, I was going nuts.
I mean, there's 40 people in there. It's tough to do. So now that was fun to see. Well, talking about great picks, our Stone Cold Locks, 2 weeks ago we had a little tough one, but we got back on the horse in really good fashion, I would say, this past week, led by the Sandman going 3-0. Pat and Eric both went 2-1. So for the season, we still got Pat in the lead at a very impressive 8-3-1. We've got Bill at 7-4-1, and I'm trailing, but still at 500. So we'll take it, and I'm feeling good this week. But I was at 6-6 for this season. So we're going to get right into it. Again, we'll each pick 3 games. And why don't you start us off, Pat?
All right. Well, I'm not going to take Minnesota and the Pittsburgh under this week, but you can just lock those in every week until it doesn't happen, because I definitely agree with
Are those too easy, Pat?
Those are too easy.
Is that what...
I think people would get bored of picking that every. So I'm going to challenge myself
I got you.
and go with 3 different ones. I feel like this Thursday night game, Dallas is going to thump the Giants. Dallas is pissed. They got stars. They got people who can play. I think Micah Parsons is going to put Daniel Jones in the hospital a couple times in the tent. I bet. I think Dallas is going to just roll. They're pissed. They need to make a statement. It's going to happen. And the Giants are terrible.
So it's not one of my Stone Cold Locks for this segment, but it is one of my 3 best bets for NFL that'll be on our website a little bit later today. Totally agree.
They'll win by
Pat.
2 touchdowns.
Me too.
At least.
If that game was another minute longer against Baltimore, Dallas wins.
Yeah.
I mean, they were rolling in the fourth quarter, so I just felt like they're going to just keep that momentum going against a terrible team, too.
Yeah.
I mean, the Giants are so bad.
Let's not kid ourselves. I know the Giants got to win. They're awful. So, Bill, what about you?
So I'm going to stick close to home here, guys. My beloved Huskies are actually traveling just about as far away from home as they possibly can this week. Friday night at Rutgers. You got Rutgers favored by 2.5. I'm all over Rutgers this week. There's something about this Husky team that still doesn't feel right to me. They just can't stop the run in key moments. That being said, Northwestern is so bad. I mean, the Huskies won this week 24-5. They did not give up any points. Basically, they gave up a safety and then a field goal that was what I think it was a pick-off tip and picked off or whatever, and they held the team. Sorry, I'm mixing it up. But yes, they did allow 1 field goal, but it was on a really short field. They also allowed a 98-yard kickoff return. The kid, I don't know if you guys saw the play, but Elijah Jackson tracks this guy like all the way across the field diagonally, tackles him down at the 2-yard line. First play of that series, so it's 1st and goal from the 2. Huskies jump off sides. So now it goes to a 1st and goal from the 1. They stop them on 4 straight plays, don't allow any points. So here I am saying the defense is not going to stop anybody, and they stop Northwestern all day, but that team is terrible. That quarterback is so bad. And so I just think Rutgers is going to run the ball. They got 2 big running backs. They're physical. And I just worry Steve Belichick's defense has looked really good on the back end, but I just don't see them being able to hold up. Cross-country travel, Friday night game, give me Rutgers -2.5.
So I didn't make either of these my best bets, but I looked at Rutgers too. I do like that. And I also looked at the under in that game. I don't know if you saw the total, but 45.5. I just think it's going to be a slow game, a slugfest. And I don't think it's going to go over, but yeah, it's tough. I don't know what to make of Washington quite yet.
Yeah.
I do think Rutgers is pretty good though.
As the kids say these days, they're very mid. That's the Huskies.
Yeah,
they're
mid.
just
They're
mediocre.
very mid.
Very mid.
Extra medium.
All right. Well, I'm going to pile on a little bit. Bill, you just picked against your Huskies. I'm going to pick against your Seahawks. They've had a great start.
You stole my pick.
But they're 3 wins.
Same as
they're
me, boys.
3 wins. Oh, well, good. Well, hey, we're all going to.
First time, I think, 3-pack for us.
A 3-pack. Wow. Do we call it 3-pat, maybe?
A 3-pack. I like that.
Yeah, no, there's only good. One. There's only one Pat.
All 3 wins have come against Bo Nix, Jacoby Brissett, and Skylar Thompson. They have not faced an offense anywhere near that of Detroit's. I think the Lions' week 2 loss to Tampa Bay just really fired up. Dan Campbell, we were talking about him earlier. I think he looked really pissed against the Cardinals, and they clearly outplayed Arizona on Sunday. The Lions rank in the top 10 in both offensive yards gained and in defensive yards allowed. They're a strong team. I just don't think the Seahawks are quite as good as their record suggests. I love Detroit at home, Ford Field, Monday night crowd. I think they're going to roll.
But I would say for me, I had Detroit over Seattle. I felt like Detroit looked like they were starting to roll last week against Arizona. The offense was really in sync in the first half. I would also put a little parlay with the over. They went over the last 3 times they played, and it's not even close. Like they're putting up 60, 70 points. So give me the over and Detroit in a parlay. That would be my pick. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, I would just add, I'd re-rack your guys' 2 statements on this game as well. I'd just add a couple things. It's Monday Night Football in Detroit. Byron Murphy, the stud young defensive tackle for the Seahawks, out with a hamstring. Leonard Williams, also hurt ribs, unlikely to play. Just not stacking up as a 4th win for the Seahawks on Monday Night Football for me.
All right. Well, I'll go on to my second one then, and we'll go to the college game. And man, it's hard to talk about this game because it's 2 teams that I hate, both of them. But the Buckeyes are given 25 in East Lansing and Michigan State. Aside from Miami, Texas, and Tennessee, a few teams have been as impressive this year to me as the Buckeyes. They've had a couple slow starts in some games, but they are just ridiculously loaded on talent all across the board. They are not going to get slowed down by a very, very overrated Spartan squad. The quarterback, Aiden Childs, he's improving, but their offense, the Spartan offense, still ranks 90th nationally. That is not going to get it done against a vastly improved Ohio State defense that ranks 3rd overall. Also, the Spartans have averaged 3 lost turnovers per game, and they're going up against the Buckeyes' top-ranked offense. No sweat at all. Give the 25 points and count your money.
Hard to argue.
Yep. For my third one,
Pat, what do you got for number 3, buddy?
For my third one, I'm going to go with Georgia over Alabama. And the reason, and I like Alabama, and I hope Alabama wins this. If I had to pick a team that I want to see win, I would pick Bama. But when have you ever seen a number this low for Georgia? They're in the last 3 years. I feel like we have to jump on this number because, it might be a little bit of an overreaction to the close game they just had. But if you give me a number this low for Georgia, I have to take it.
Yeah, this is going to be a good counterpoint because my third Stone Cold lock was Bama. +2.
Interesting.
Pat, I'm a homer, 100%. Heartbroken when Kalen DeBoer left Seattle, left the Huskies. I tell you what, guys, I watched this guy coach my favorite sports team the last 2 seasons. In every single big game, the guy gets his team ready to go. And there's something about whether it was Oregon, even the national championship game. Michigan was the better team. They deserved to win. Props to Bierman's squad, but the Huskies were ready to play. Michigan just had better players. They just did, and I think the Huskies were right there. Kalen will have his team ready to go. I think give me Bama at home, and in this matchup, I just feel like for some reason that the Crimson Tide are gonna come out on top. I think in part it's because Georgia was anointed at the beginning of the year, and I think Bama's got a bigger chip. They're at home, and I just see them taking this game. Maybe they lose by 1-2, but that's fine. I'll take the +2.
Yeah, this one was a tough one for me. I don't know which way it's going to go. If I had to lean, I'd probably take Bama and the points. And kind of to your point, Pat, a little bit with Georgia. Have you ever seen Georgia this low in the last few years? Alabama at home as an underdog? What? When has that happened? So
It'll
like the fact that they're getting 2 points in Tuscaloosa. Now, you also made a really good point, Pat. I think there is an overreaction here in terms of Georgia stubbing their toe a little bit in Lexington. And Georgia is still a really, really good team. They could come out and win by 2 touchdowns, and it wouldn't surprise me. So
yeah.
I don't know. But if I had to pick, I kind of like Alabama at home getting the points.
What's your last one, Bierman?
All right. So for me, this is tough for me because I absolutely love the Hoosiers of Indiana and what Coach Kurt Cignetti is building in Bloomington. I know this is going to sound crazy, but if he stays, I have this weird sense he is developing something very similar to what Wisconsin did in Madison in the early 2000s. Like this team they're disciplined. They're well prepared. They boast a top 12 offense in points scored and a top 10 defense in yards allowed. I love everything about this guy and this program. That said, 7 points is a lot to be giving against Maryland, which I know Maryland isn't necessarily world beaters. They did have a tough home loss to Michigan State in week 2. But despite that, their quarterback, I'm still on board with Billy Edwards. He's been impressive. He completed 28 of 32 passes for 328 yards last week. They lead the nation in turnover margin per game, the Terrapins do. And if they can maintain that advantage, they're going to keep things close. They may lose it. I think they will. And I actually hope Indiana wins it. I love the story there. But I like Terrapins to cover the spread in this matchup.
Maybe the Indiana coach should have been on our underrateds as well.
I think he needs to do it a little bit longer, but I mean, he is one of my favorite coaches right now. And I like actually follow Indiana and like what's going on there. I just, they're Bloomington's 90 minutes from where I live, maybe 2 hours, but like it's close, and they have just always been so bad in football, just a couple years here and there, but
with Penix,
it's just, I think it'd be cool, man. Yeah.
Big Penix.
Michael Penix.
He had him rolling there for a couple years. Kalen DeBoer was their offensive coordinator. They were pretty good there for a couple of years.
All right, guys. Well, I'm feeling another 9-0 week here, let's keep it going.
Can't happen.
It can't happen.
Yeah, 8-1. Oh yeah. All right, boys. I'm feeling an 8-1 week. How about that?
8-1. Me or Pat will just be like, dang it.
Yeah.
Took the wrong side.
I guess we could go 7-0-2.
Yeah. That's right.
I almost stayed away
from
that game. I almost stayed away from the game. It was between that or the Gophers Michigan, and I feel like Michigan's going to roll. So I could change it to Michigan rolling, and then we could go 9-0, or we just keep it and see what happens.
No
side bet.
You steered clear.
You're locked in. It's official now.
You steered clear of.
Yes. Well, I usually like to steer clear of those.
He did do a 3-way though today.
So. Yeah, that's right.
All right, boys. Well, last week's top 5 got a lot of love. I know from us and from our listeners, got to do a few pet peeves. But I got to tell you, I'm pretty excited about this one too. This one is courtesy of Mr. Pat Collette. I love this idea. And our top 5 today, going back to kind of the sports theme, is going to be top 5 sports stars that we each would want to golf with if we could. Pat, you want to lead us off on this one?
Sure. I'm gonna start with my number 5 is Mike Tyson. I feel like
Oh wow, yeah.
With Iron Mike in the cart with me, if anyone is hitting into us, I could send Iron Mike back there and be like, Mike, go fuck him up. He'll probably be doing some crazy, probably smoking a ton of weed and and having what's that called, the frog venom or something. I think he's into like this hallucinating off frog venom. I don't know, but Iron Mike I think would be a character to just talk to and again, if there's any beef on the course, you got Mike in your cart. It's good times.
Do you think
He was
do
an
you think
honorable mention for me.
Yeah,
Nice.
Also, I
I
think
missed that
would
one.
he play in the air tonight too? If we
yeah,
got him a piano at the 19th hole.
yeah. Number 4, I have Paige Sporonic. I feel like, I mean, do I need to explain why?
Exactly.
They could help.
No.
You could help with my golf game. It's all in the hips.
You
You
need
come
to
up, behind and just kind of show me it's all in the hips, and then we're, see what happens, and then maybe my wife would be like, sure, she can stay with us and hang with us for a couple weeks while our house is under construction. Am I taking this daydream too far? Sure, it's
Hey,
okay if she
this is
stays
your
for the
top 5
weekend.
list, Pat.
That's it. That's it, Bierman. It's your top 5, Pat.
Yeah.
Roll with it. Roll with it.
Okay.
Love it. All right, Bill, what do you got?
For me, I went with my number 5 is Marshawn Lynch. Just as a local Seattle icon, sports icon, beast mode. I just feel like it would be nonstop hijinks, laughs, fun. I mean, he's got some crazy stories. Skittles flying. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, beast mode for my number 5. My number 4 is going to be off the grid for you guys. You guys won't recognize this name, but this gentleman's name is Bob Rondo. He was the Huskies play-by-play announcer for my entire life. To be able to sit with that guy for 5 hours and just hear stories about Husky teams of old, players that I've watched growing up. You guys probably have local announcers as well that are like kind of the soundtrack of your sports youth. Yep. That's Bob Rondo for me. We're very blessed out here with some really amazing play-by-play guys. Bob Rondo made me want to be a play-by-play guy. So just to have 5 hours on a golf course with that guy would just be incredible.
You still can be a play-by-play guy, Bill. You dare to dream.
Yeah, it's not too late. You're right.
It's not too late.
You're right. Rondo actually hung it up too. So, good for him. He didn't do it too late. It's not going to be one of those situations where you're like, oh man, I love this guy, but he's, can't remember things or whatever. So he's off retired and probably enjoying a great life. And we've got this young kid, Tony Castricone, that came in now, and he's doing a great job for the Huskies. Spearman, how about you?
That's
what
awesome.
You got for 5
All right. Well, I'll start with number 5 with, I think, kind of an obvious, easy one, but I'm going to go with John Daly. The guy smokes, gambles, drinks. He's like the king of degenerates. I'd love to spend a day with him out on the links, and he probably knows some good strip clubs to go to after the round as well. So it's a win-win. Number 4, I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers because, one, I want to see if he really is as big of a dick as everyone says he is. 2, I love Jeopardy, and I want to know how that whole experience was while he was auditioning to host that. And 3, I have always had a thing for one of his exes, Olivia Munn. So any inside scoop he can give me there would be pretty cool to know.
Just a couple things on those last ones. Who was your first one again? It was
John Daly.
John Daly. Yeah, I read a quote from him. He's like, it's impossible for me to pull like how his longevity in the sport. It's impossible for me to pull a muscle because I don't have any. So he's like, I never have to worry about being injured. But yeah, those are some good ones. Going back to yours, Bill, with the play-by-play announcer, my number 3 was Jim Nantz. Even though he's not really an athlete, he's a sports figure. I feel like he could just follow me around and just announce everything. And
that would be so great.
This putt for a 10 and a share of the lead. And then
he did play college golf too, Pat.
Yeah,
he played college golf.
Yeah,
for Houston. Yeah.
Yeah, his one of my employees, his dad was his college roommate, and Freddie Couples, Freddie Couples, cool. And this guy.
Yeah,
he's actually the head pro over at Troy Byrne in Hudson. great course, really nice course. But yeah, Jim Nance, I feel like
Very
we could
cool.
have the Masters music playing in the cart while we're driving. Just a quiet afternoon with Jim, just hanging out, being buddies.
I
Number
love that
two,
one.
Randy Moss, Vikes legend. Let's go, Randy Moss. Why not? I feel like,
Lost it.
yeah, it'd be good to hang out with Randy Moss for a day, golf, talk football.
Pat, I just heard something this week that I had forgot, I guess. But do you realize, or do you guys know that Randy Moss in college at Marshall played with, or sorry, this is his high school team in West Virginia with White Chocolate, Jason Williams.
Oh,
Did you guys know that they played high school together?
no.
They finished second in the West Virginia state championships. And I was just thinking to myself, how in the world did those two guys lose to anyone
Yeah.
in high school basketball? I mean, Moss is he the greatest athlete ever at wide receiver?
Probably.
And Randy, though, just that guy can fly, he can jump, his hands, I mean, just so athletic. Anyway,
Yeah.
love that one. For me, guys, my three is kind of a two-pack. I Gary Payton and Sean Kemp, two of my favorite Sonics through the years. Really, Gary Payton, maybe my all-time favorite athlete, Seattle sports athlete. Loved the swagger. Came out of Oregon State, couldn't shoot a lick. Just D'd guys up, talks so much shit. Like when he's on your team, you just love that guy. And then the Rain Man, Sean Kemp. I mean, you guys saw him flying through the air when he was obviously skinny and athletic earlier in his career. I mean, the guy was unstoppable. Against the Bulls in the NBA championships, Sean Kemp was the best player on the floor. I'll debate anybody anytime on that. Better than Jordan, better than Pippen. He was unstoppable in that series. If Nate McMillan was healthy, Sonics are NBA champs. That series, totally still think that. But the stories that those two guys could tell for such a great era of Seattle basketball would just be a blast. My second one is actually Clint Dempsey, who you guys not being huge soccer guys, you might not be as familiar with Clint, but Clint had a good run in the English Premier Leagues. He was one of the American stars to go over and really make hay in a big professional league in Europe. Then came back to this Seattle Sounders in the MLS and just tore up the MLS. Got put a star on the chest. Seattle Sounders won an MLS Cup. The guy was just clutch. Great U.S. national team player. Love that he's from Texas. Swagger. Again, talk shit. I kind of like those types of athletes playing for my home team. And so Clint Dempsey would just have so many great stories to tell from the soccer sphere. So those are my 3 and 2. Bierman, what you got?
Yeah, those are really good ones, Bill. So for me, I'm going to go hometown number 3, Pete Rose. Being a Cincinnati guy, this dude is just royalty around here. Truly believe the Big Red Machine of the 70s is the greatest team ever. And I just would love to hear about those seasons. Of course, would want to know about the whole gambling debacle and how he feels about the Hall of Fame shunning. And I hate golfing if I can't bet, and I know that's not going to be a problem with him. So there's that. And then number 2, I'm going a little off the radar, but I'm going to go with Mike Eruzione. He scored arguably the most famous goal in the history of hockey.
That's awesome.
He was captain of the most famous team in the history of hockey. I would just love to hear stories about that game, that win, Coach Herb Brooks. It was one of my very first sports memories. I was 7 when the Miracle on Ice happened. Probably the sports event that impacted me the most as a kid. I just thought it was so cool. I remember the neighborhood I was living in just going crazy. I love the movie Miracle. I would enjoy spending some time with that guy.
That's an awesome one. Yeah, good call.
The legs feed the wolf. Miracle.
Yes.
Good movie.
Yep. Great movie.
Is it me for one?
Well, and being in Minnesota, Pat, I mean, Herb Brooks, they still talk about that guy up there, I'm sure.
Yeah. We got statues. Yeah, you can't go a hockey season without talking about him. And there were so many Minnesota kids on that team. For my number 1, I went with a little bit. You gotta hear me out on this one with my reasoning, but I went with Cristiano Ronaldo. And if you are out on a golf course and you want that beer cart girl to come around more often, you got to have some bait. You got to have some bait in the cart. It's kind of like when you go to the clubs. You don't want to go to the clubs with your ugly ass friends. You want to bring you bring your good looking friends to be, chum the waters. He's basically bait.
Bill, is that why me and you have never been invited to go to the clubs with Pat?
I'm guessing.
I go to the clubs all the time. I'm always at the clubs. But yeah, that's my reasoning. I would like the beer cart.
I love it.
Woman to come around more often.
That's a good one. That's a handsome man.
I did think Michael Jordan too, Eric, like you were saying, I like to gamble on the golf course, and I know he likes to gamble. Yeah, Pete Rose, Michael Jordan, you and I, let's go. Let's set it up.
Yeah. Throw Phil Mickelson in too.
Yeah,
but he'd have to
that's
give
right.
Us
oh yeah, I like
a few
Phil.
strokes.
Yep.
I love that one, Pat. My number one. Pat actually gave a nice little segue earlier for my number one. So local Seattle legend, Freddie Boom Boom Couples is my number one.
Yeah, all right. I love Freddie.
Yeah, and everybody loves Freddie, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody just loves him. I mean, and then his swing, the tempo, I just think in terms of golf, and he's so connected, right? So I thought about Tiger, and I thought about Jordan, I thought about Griffey Jr. and all these super legends of the sports, but I just thought Freddie would just be such a fun guy to hang out with and so chill, and then the stories would just fly. I mean, I think he's been a vice captain on it feels like every Ryder Cup team and every President's Cup team and everything. So he's just so connected, and I think it'd be a super blast to play with Freddie.
Nice.
Yeah, you just made me think of one that I'm kind of kicking myself for not considering is Jack Nicklaus. Could you imagine how freaking cool it would be to be on a golf course with that guy?
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you guys know?
He's one of my all-time favorites. Fred Couples is a great one, Bill.
Do you know how the beer cart did get started? Either of you guys know?
No.
Yeah. Well, I actually just read this. Wasn't it Frank Sinatra
and Dean Martin
something?
when they were in Vegas? They needed booze with them constantly, so they had someone follow them with booze in a cart, and that's how the beer cart started. Yeah, legendary.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Thank you, Frank.
Maybe their biggest contribution to mankind, arguably.
That's awesome. All right, well, I'm going to cheat on my last one and bring a full foursome with me here, Wolverine style. I'm going with Tom Brady, the GOAT, who can tell me all kinds of stuff about Super Bowls, Belichick, and the modeling world. I'm sure with Giselle. Jim Harbaugh, quirkiest dude ever. Man, that would be fun to get him out on a golf course. And JJ McCarthy, the beloved son who brought home the ship for us last year. Maybe even set him up with my daughter who has a little crush on him. So, it could be a win-win for everybody.
Whoa. I thought I was your daughter's biggest. Your daughter was my biggest fan. Come on. JJ McCarthy.
That is true.
I can't even last.
All right,
games.
Boys. Well, that was a fun one. I kind of want to get these golf matches going. That would be a good time out there. All right. Well, we're going to roll on to Nailed It. Bill, I think I did pretty well last week, but I want to hear the updates, man.
Yeah. It right now it's looking like we're heading to Cincinnati, Pat.
Oh, good. Let's keep it going.
The standings sit currently at Bierman 8, Sanders 6, Klett 3. And
all
Bierman
right.
did have a good week last week with 4 points. Bill had 2, Pat had 1, and we still have a couple of outstanding questions. So we're waiting on the ineptitude total for the Chicago White Sox. We're still waiting on that one. We're also still waiting on Aaron Judge's home run total at the end of the season. Here as we wrap it up, Mariners absolutely shitting the bed. Finally stick a dagger in them, so I can stop torturing myself watching that baseball team.
Same with the Twins. They're just tanking. That was a sweet call. That was a sweet call by the Yankees announcer on the Judge home run last night. That was a pretty good one. If you get a chance to listen.
I didn't hear it. What? Okay, yeah, I'll check it out.
It was just real smooth. It was great. It was a sweet looking home run. And the Judge, he just gets all into it. The judge is in session.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really good.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, well, I still need Judge to get super hot here in these last few games because otherwise my nailed it pick is not anywhere in the right ballpark. Bierman's got that one locked up for another point unless Judge goes crazy these last few games. Pat, you're looking good on the White Sox one too. They currently sit. Let's see, I wrote it down somewhere here if I can find it in my notes. But anyway, they're trending to a point for you in that one because I think you said they were going to lose 10 of their last 11, if I remember right from last week.
He did.
And they've just been atrocious.
Well, and they got to play Detroit. They got to play Detroit, who needs to win these games in the final series. So
yeah, they're on fire too. Have you guys seen that? Yeah, that I can't remember how you say his first name. It's Tariq or
Tariq Skubal.
But Tariq
Skubal. Yeah.
Tariq Skubal.
Tariq Skubal.
Dude, that guy he's electric. Yeah, that guy's fun to watch.
Well, I love having the lead right now, but you guys realize we have 4 more months of this if this is going through the Super Bowl. So it's going to be a long journey, but it's fun. What do we got? What do we got for this week, man?
Okay, so real quick, I just wanted to go through. This is great, but I actually had somebody ask me, can you just quickly give a recap of the last week's picks? Okay. And I was like, hey, we got nailed it feedback coming in on the segment. So just real quick, I'm just going to run through. So Pat got the point for total points of the 2 Monday Night Football home teams. Pat was the highest with 68, and they actually scored 80 points. So Pat was closest there. Eric and I, we already mentioned, we hit the Miami of Ohio and Notre Dame point differential of 20-29, so we bullseyed on that one. How about this, though, you guys? Jackson Dart, how many yards will he throw? Eric guessed 381. Jackson Dart threw for 382. So almost the bullseye. 1 yard. 1 yard.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so Bierman, you were so close on that. And then check this one out, too. How many goals will be scored in the MLS matches from Wednesday, 9/18, last week? Eric guessed 44 goals, and it was 46. So close, Bierman, to 2 bullseyes. So yeah, nice job. You were super on target there. So okay.
Hey, I do have one question. Is the Ohtani, because I'm gonna win that one, has that already been factored in?
Yeah, so thank you for mentioning that. Yes, you've already been given the point for that one. Yeah, because you have that one locked up. Yeah, thanks. I had that in my notes as well, but I missed it. Yeah, you nailed that point. He's obviously, I mean, guys, that game where he went over 50-50, 6 for 6, 10 ribs, 3 bombs. I mean,
I actually meant to bring that up in my hot takes until I forgot. I mean, too. Was there a more incredible game ever? Like, I saw like those things, the 10 ribbies and the doubles and the stolen bases and all of that. I read that there is one person that has done each of those things in their entire career. Had a game where they had like 10 RBIs, or had a game where they had 2 stolen bases.
And it was
or had
in
a game
1892, Smokey Woods Johnson.
No. It never. It was one person in their career do that. And guess who it was?
Kirby Puckett.
Shohei Ohtani. And he did it all in one game.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever done that in their career, and he did it all in one game. I mean,
it's crazy.
Incredible.
I mean,
I remember Kirby Puckett had a game that was pretty close to that. I think it was in Milwaukee. It was like 6 for 6, and not as many ribbies, I don't think. But
all right, it's awesome, Kirby. What a ball player that guy was.
I love Kirby. He was one of my favorites.
Unreal.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, guys. I mean, is it fair to say that Shohei is the best player of all time? I mean,
I think he is definitely in the argument. How can you not?
If he can get back to pitching.
Andy didn't even
We're just
pitch.
talking about the hitting. I
know. He didn't even pitch. It's just crazy.
It's incredible, dude. It's so cool. You talk about underrated. Like, I actually think he's underrated. We do not talk enough about that guy. Yeah.
Insane. Anyway, nice job on your pick, Bierman.
He doesn't even look fast when he's running. He doesn't even look fast.
No.
He's just long.
He's
I think
his
legs are so long.
I actually want to see him live. Like, if they come to the Cincinnati next year, I got to go check him out.
Yeah, unbelievable. Anyway, all right, you guys got your phones out for a
Yeah, let's do it.
little nailed it guesses. Okay, I think we got some. I tried to mix it up across the sports again. I thought that was kind of fun. And then I've got a question today that is a geography question, and you
Oh,
guys just have to believe me that I did not do any research. Okay, because
okay.
I'm not going to roll that way. So
Yeah, I think we're
it's
good.
okay. All right. So
Rigged.
okay. So yeah, I know. I mean, honestly, I would have been easy to look up, but I didn't. Okay, so the first one we're going to start with is I don't know if you guys realize, but because golf's kind of been dying, or the season, sorry, has ended, but the President's Cup is this week, and so they're playing up at Royal Montreal. We got a little USA versus International. The U.S. Just a couple of fun facts. The U.S. is going for their 10th straight victory in the President's Cup, which is kind of nuts, and I think it's partly why the Ryder Cup, is just thought of as the premier team golf event. But it's always fun, right? I mean, you still have a lot of really good players, and I'm going to be excited to try to tune in a little bit and see if I can watch the USA uh, get their 11th straight victory this year. So the question is for the President's Cup, and there are 30 points available in the President's Cup. Last year, or sorry, the last time it was played, 2022, the U.S. won with 17 and a half points. In 2019, they won with 16 points. In 2017, they had 19 points. And in 2015, they won the closest one at 15 and a half to 14 and a half. Okay, so my question is, how many points will the USA get? Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on one second. Uh,
3, 2, 1, send. All right. So interestingly, Pat actually has the U.S. losing the President's Cup this year, 16 and a half to 13 and a half. So Pat's guess is 13 and a half. Bierman's at 16 and a half. That would be a fun, close President's Cup. I actually went at 18. All right. So question number 2. We talked about this game earlier. Giant SEC tilt in Tuscaloosa. I was surprised to see that Alabama is actually winning the series 43 to 26 to 4. I thought it would have been a lot closer, actually. But Georgia's a 2-point favorite. We already talked about that. The total is at 48 and a half. So this is a two-parter. We're going to pick the winner, and how much will they win by? Okay, how much will the difference of win be by? So now if you don't pick the right winner, you cannot get the point. Okay, that first is the qualifier. So get your winner typed in there, and then how much will they win by? Actually, I don't like that guess. I'm changing my guess. All right. Are you guys ready? 3, 2, 1, send. Nice, Pat. I love it. All right. So Colette gave me a suck it, Trebek.
Shock it, Trebek.
Suck it, Trebek. Georgia. Pat says Georgia will win by 3. Bierman, you just freaking got boxed in big time here. So Bierman picked
I'm in
Alabama by 1. I took Alabama by 2. So any Alabama win over 2, and I'm going to be in good shape. All right, so that was the Georgia versus Alabama game. And that game is, I think it's at 4:30 Pacific, and unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to watch it. But man, that's going to be a fun one.
Now I'm rooting for Georgia to win because I'm not really worried about Pat winning this whole competition. So I'd rather him get the
You're
point.
just rooting against me.
Yeah.
It's officially switched now. It's like just rooting against Sanders. I like it. All right.
No, it's not rooting against you. It's I fear you winning this much more than Pat's.
Oh, Pat, that's a shot. That is a shot.
Not offended. This game is not
No,
legit.
Pat's already said he was throwing in the towel
Yep.
just so he can come to Seattle or Cincinnati. Okay, so for the third question, we're going to the NFL, and I'm going to travel into the land of 10,000 lakes, except not quite. I guess we're going to go to the frozen tundra because this game's actually in Green Bay. So the Vikes looking to go to 4-0, and this guy that I'm rooting for, I've already talked about it quite a bit on the pod, but I'm really rooting for Sam Darnold up in Minnesota. And the question is, how many rushing yards will Sam Darnold have versus the Green Bay Packers? I'll give you his rushing totals in the first 3 weeks. Game 1, 3 yards. Game 2, 32 yards. And game 3, 0 yards. I think he did get dinged up in the last game, but apparently his knee's okay. This is what I read.
How many?
0. Okay, so 3, 32, and 0. Those are his totals. You guys ready? 3, 2, 1, send. You guys, nice. I love it. How about this? We got our first tie guess, I think, of a random variable question. So Pat, 12 yards, Bierman, 12 yards. Pat also gave us skull bikes, and Sanders with 8. So it looks like I'm looking for 9 or less. 9 or less. That would be good for Sanders. All right. You guys could each get a point. If it's 10, well, I guess 10 would be a tie for all of us. And then anything more than 10, you guys both get a point. All right. We're going to head to baseball for question number 4. So this is on the diamond for today. Okay. Games happening today. So looking at all 3 of our beloved home teams, M's are at the Astros, Reds are at the Guardians, Marlins are at the Twins. Okay, the over for the Mariners is 6.5. The over for the Reds is 7.5, and the over for the Twins is 8.5. Okay, my question for us is, how many runs will our home teams score tonight combined? Okay, so the M's, Reds, and Twins, how many runs will they score today combined? Are you ready?
No.
Okay, take
Who
your
do the
time.
Twins
Come
play?
on, Eric.
Who do the Twins play?
Marlins.
Hey, you don't get to lead a
Target
competition
Field.
like this by just making choices willy-nilly.
I got stuff to do today.
I like it.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, send. Sanders, 16. Bierman, 15. Pat, 21. Meaning Sanders is in the box. Not good.
I want low-scoring games.
Yeah,
now.
you want low-scoring games. Well, the Mariners will, I'm sure, oblige because that's one of the most atrocious offenses in the history of Major League Baseball. Okay. All right, and so for number 5, we're going to have a soccer question, but it's a geography question. So it's a soccer spin, but nothing really about soccer. So this Saturday, our 3 MLS home teams play: Cincinnati versus LAFC, Seattle versus Houston, and Minnesota versus Colorado. Okay, so the question is, give me the distance between those 2 cities, those opponents, for all 3 games. So again, I'll just repeat: Cincinnati and Los Angeles, Seattle and Houston, Minnesota and Colorado. Okay, so just add those 3 together.
And just add those 3. Okay.
Add those 3 together. So again, this is like, I feel like a terrible American that I have no clue. I might be so off on this. All right. So I need a second here, guys, just to think about it. I'm worried I'm going to be really embarrassed by this one. Okay, let me know when you guys are ready. I've got mine typed in here.
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1, send. All right. Okay. I'm in the middle of you guys. All right. Bierman, 4,200. Klett, 1,957. I like the specificity. Sanders, 2,500. So I'm curious, how did you guys think about this one? Like, how did you go through the process?
I always think from New York to LA is about 3,000 miles, I think.
Okay.
And so I'm like, Cincinnati's probably 2,000-ish miles to LA, like in my head is kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, I undershot that one.
And then I was like, okay, so if you're going down from Seattle to Houston, like it's probably not quite 2,000, but it's, I think in that I went with like 1,300. And then what was the other? Oh, the other one.
It's
Minnesota
Colorado.
To Colorado was like kind of close. So I'm like, that's probably like quickly was just in my head like, that's probably like 800 miles or so, something like that. So that's where I came. Yeah. All right. Well, another awesome Nailed It segment. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Pat, for just a great podcast overall. Listeners, thank you for continuing to come back every week and support us. A couple final thoughts, please. If you haven't already, visit our website at intersamiansports.com. Again, lots of articles, expert advice, quick hit videos, podcasts can be found there. You can also find our podcast on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't yet at Enter Samian Sports. Please follow us on Facebook, also at Enter Samian Sports. Follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Sandman Sports. If you have questions or suggestions for our show or for anything related to our website, please email us at info@entersandmansports.com. It's a pleasure every week to do this with you boys. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and enjoy another slate of great games. See ya.
See you guys
Later.
Bye.